The following presentation is brought to you by Amazing Discoveries. To see this entire video, please contact amazingdiscoveries.org.
The lecture tonight is titled The Man Behind the Mask because we want to know who the man behind the scenes is that is going to play a major role in the events culminating in the very end events before the coming of Christ. And the book of Daniel gives us a lot of information on this issue. And in fact, the book of Daniel, as we have said before, forms the template for the book of Revelation. And the prophecy that we will be going through tonight is a prophecy that acts as a key for the book of Revelation. Again, I'd like to remind you of our little dictionary of prophetic terms. White linen, righteousness. Trumpet, wind, is a symbol of war. Trumpet can also be a symbol of judgment. Prostitution is idolatry, being unfaithful to God. Water or sea equals nations, Revelation 17:5. A woman, you will remember, is a church, Zion, God's people. Tonight we're going to deal with beasts and kingdoms, and we'll see the definitions there for ourselves. And horns and kings and kingdoms, we'll see those definitions for ourselves as well. And the rock is Jesus. There are many, many texts indicating that. So let us have a look at this vision tonight of Daniel chapter 7. It's one of the most thunderous visions in the Bible. It's really staggering, and it's actually quite scary. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, so this is right towards the end of the Babylonian kingdom, Daniel had a dream. So now it's not the king who has a dream, but Daniel who has a dream. And obviously, Daniel is going to get more detail than the king had in his previous vision, which was the sort of the ABC of prophecy. He had a dream and a vision of his head upon his bed, and then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. So he's going to explain it. We don't have to guess about this issue. Daniel 7, verses 2 and 3, "And I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds," what was that? War of heaven strove upon the great sea, so there was war among the nations. And four great beasts, kingdoms, came up from the sea, diverse from one another. They were different to each other. Daniel 7, verses 2 and 3. So now let's just make sure that we have this right. Bible prophecy symbols. Remember, the sea is people, nations, multitudes. Revelation 17:15. Wind, we said, was war. Jeremiah 49:36 and 37. Beasts or kingdoms. Daniel 7:17. Let's read those texts to make absolutely sure. Revelation 17:15, "The waters which thou sawest are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues." So, here's the first symbol. Let's go to Jeremiah and see what we can see here. 49, verse 36, "And upon Elam will I bring the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, and will scatter them towards all those winds, and there shall be no nation whither the outcasts of Elam shall not come." Verse 37, "For I will cause Elam to be dismayed before their enemies." Now we call that Hebrew parallelism. Something is explained in one way and then repeated in another way, and in that way the symbols are explained. They are self-explanatory then. So the four winds which scatter Elam mean that Elam will be dismayed before their enemies. There will be wars. "And before them that seek their life, and I will bring evil upon them, even my fierce anger, says the Lord, and I will send the sword," war, "after them till I have consumed them." So there you have the parallelism, so that you can see that the sea equals the nations, and the wind equals the wars. Daniel 7:17, the 4 great beasts are 4 computers in Brussels. Oh, no, it doesn't say that at all. It says the 4 great beasts are 4 kingdoms that will arise from the earth. So 4 kingdoms are going to come, and they're described as beasts. 17:23, the 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom upon the earth. So that's the biblical definition. We cannot make it anything other than what the Bible says it's going to be. So the 4 beasts are 4 kingdoms that shall arise upon the earth. And now we can look at the kingdoms and see where we are going. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made to stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. Daniel 7, verse 4. Now, the first kingdom that we had in Daniel chapter 2, the head of gold, Daniel identified it as what? Babylon. The first beast we see here is the lion with eagle's wings, which, by the way, was the symbol, one of the symbols of Babylon. And what is fascinating here is that this beast was made to stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. This is a system, a kingdom that exalts the human above the divine. This is the ultimate apostasy against God, putting man in the place where God should be. And we will see as we continue in this series that end-time events also culminate in this very matter. Man being placed where the divine should be. So Bab, El, as I've already said, Babel, Bab is gate, El is God, portal to God, another way to God, another way other than the prescribed way which we find in the Bible. So here is this power that will arise, and it stands for Babylon. It parallels the head of gold, 605 to 539 BC. Let's have a look at Jeremiah for the symbolism. Jeremiah 4 verse 7, a lion has come out of his lair. A destroyer of nations has set out. He has left his place to lay waste your land. The prophet is speaking to Israel, Jerusalem. Your towns will lie in ruins without inhabitants. And the lion he was referring to was the kingdom of Nebuchadnezzar. Babylon was going to come. And Jeremiah applies the symbol of the lion to Babylon. So the first kingdom is Babylon. Here's a symbol that was used in Babylon. You can see the lion with the eagle's wings, part of that symbolism. Here's another relief. And there again, you see the lions with the eagle's wings, symbols of Babylon. So archaeology confirms that that was the symbolism that was used. So we do not have to guess at what was to transpire. The Bible gives us a good start. Daniel chapter 2 started with Babylon. Daniel chapter 7 starts with Babylon. And suddenly another beast, replace that with another word. Kingdom. A second, like a bear, it was raised up on one side and had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth, and they said thus to it, arise, devour much flesh. Daniel 7 verse 5. So this beast is going to come and it's going to devour the flesh of the previous one. It's going to make war and replace it. And it had 3 ribs, and one side was higher than the other. Now, what was the next kingdom in Daniel chapter 2? It was Medo-Persia. Now, we have a little bit more detail here. The Medes and the Persians weren't equally yoked. At first, the Medes were the prominent one and was raised up on one side. Later on, the Persians rose to be the equivalent and even higher. So it was not equal in its power. So the next kingdom to come along would be Medo-Persia, 3 ribs in its mouth. There were 3 major wars associated with that conquest. So Medo-Persia is the parallel of the arms of silver and the chest, and they ruled from 539 to 331 BC. And there are the thrusts that they made, the one into Lydia, conquering these portions of the Babylonian Empire, the other thrust to Babylon itself, and the third one down into Egypt, and they basically conquered the entire Babylonian kingdom with these 3 conquests representing the 3 ribs in their mouth. Daniel 7 verse 6, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings, as of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. That's fascinating. Daniel 7 verse 6, the next kingdom to come along, of course, was the Greek kingdom. And here it is described as a leopard. Remember the animals? There's a lion, there's a bear, and now there's a leopard. And 4 heads associated with this beast. How many heads on the first one? 1 head. How many heads on the second one? 1 head plus 4 heads. And interesting story. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon its back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. So the next kingdom to come along was Greece, 331 to 168 BC. And when Greece was at the height of its power, Alexander the Great died after a night of drunken stupor. He lingered for a while and then died. And the kingdom was divided into 4, the 4 generals, Cassander, Lysimachus, Ptolemy, and Seleucid kingdom. That is the division of the Greek Empire into 4. Fascinating. So there were 4 heads. So now we already have a total of 6 heads. The lion, the bear, plus the 4 makes 6. After this, Daniel 7 verse 7, I saw in the night vision, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. Do you remember the symbol of iron? Where did we find it? In Daniel chapter 2, and it was a symbol of the Roman Empire. Here we have the same symbolism. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the residue with its feet. Here's this mighty empire, politically the most powerful of the 4, and it would destroy and devour with its feet. And there's something very interesting about it. Daniel 7 verse 7. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Right. There are no numbers of heads mentioned here, so we assume it had 1 head with 10 horns. So if you count all the heads of the beasts of Daniel chapter 7, how many heads do we have? We have 7 heads. 7 heads. Now the beasts that we will find in the book of Revelation have 7 heads. And the beasts in the book of Revelation with the 7 heads also have all the components of the beasts that are mentioned here in Daniel chapter 7. So we must know what each of these heads represents and what the philosophies were that were associated with those time periods. Now this particular beast was also different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Now the 10 horns, as we saw in the definitions, would also be kingdoms. Verse 24 says, and the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. So out of Rome, 10 kingdoms would arise. And another shall rise after them. So after the 10 had arisen, after Rome had been divided into 10, another one would arise. And he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. All right, this is fascinating. So the fourth beast divides into 10, but it's still basically that beast. It's still that beast that divides into 10. And out of this beast, amongst the division of the 10, comes another power, and he is the one that adds the different flavor. Is that clear? Is that what the text says? He shall be diverse, different from the first. So Rome will be different to the others because of that beast. And he will rule for how long? Until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was given to the saints. That's a long, long time. Very long, long time. So Rome ruled from 168 BC to 476 AD. It will divide into 10. How many toes did the previous prophecy depict? 10 toes. There we have the 10 again. Divide into 10. Another will arise after them, and he will be different, and the system will remain how long? Until the Ancient of Days shall come. Long time. So we're talking about a long, long time span. Rome ruled from 168 BC to 476 AD, and then it was divided up. So we have exactly the same sequence. We have the lion depicting the head of gold. Then we have the bear depicting the arms and the chest of silver. We have this four-headed leopard representing the hips of bronze. And then we have the terrible beast representing the legs of iron. And the 10 toes, when it divides into 10, plus it will be different because of another that arises after them. So that's what we have so far. Daniel chapter 7, verse 19 to 20 and 23. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse, different from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron and his nails of bronze. So there was an element of bronze in this fourth beast. Bronze was a very important component. Now, in actual fact, the Greek Empire was basically just incorporated by Rome. Greek philosophy was the very basis of the Roman Empire. And in fact, when Rome split into the two legs, the one was the Byzantine Empire and the other one the Western Empire. And the empire was ruled from Constantinople, and that is where Greek philosophy abounded. Greek philosophy was the philosophy of the time. So there's this element of brass, of bronze claws scratched. And we'll find these nails also interestingly elsewhere later on, which devoured, broke in pieces, and stamped the residue with its feet. So I wanted to know about this terrible fourth beast. The fourth beast, we are told in verse 23, shall be a fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be different from all the kingdoms, and shall devour how much of the earth? The whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. Now, did Rome, in its original form, take over the whole world? Yes or no? Yeah. No. What about China? What about Japan? What about the Philippines? What about Australia? What about Southern Africa? What about the United States? What about South America? What about those areas? Did Rome rule over all of those? Yes or no? Obviously not. But remember, the prophecy doesn't say Rome ends. The prophecy says that Rome is divided into 10, and that another arises after them who rules until when? Until the Ancient of Days comes.
To see this entire video, please contact amazingdiscoveries.org or by phone at 1-866-572-9457 or by fax at 604-599-9949. Our Canadian address is P.O. Box 189, 7101C, 120th Street, Delta, British Columbia, V4E 2A9. Our U.S. address is P.O. Box 4480, Blaine, Washington, 98231.